Are you short of words? Are you bamboozled? Are you shocked? Because I certainly am. I did not expect this kind of a performance from Pakistan versus New Zealand. I mean, what's going on here? On one hand, you have an opener who can barely lay bat to ball and plays horrible shots and gets duck out twice in a row, and now you have him scoring a belligerent, crazy, carefree century. And on one hand, you have a bowling lineup, which I'm still talking about Pakistan, by the way, who basically is bowling total rubbish. And today, it's almost as if they kind of heard what I was saying in my previous podcast. You had slower balls, you had off length balls, you had Yorker length balls, and you had spin opening the innings. I mean, what's going on? And what about the fielding? What's with that catching? You held on to everything, including a sensational catch to start off things. This is a new look Pakistan, and I don't know if they've shocked the fans, but definitely I think they've shocked themselves. Hello and welcome to the third New Zealand versus Pakistan T20 match, and oh my god, it was quite something. To start off with, unlike the first two matches, this match had two things that were quite different. First, it was played under lights, which probably meant that the swinging ball was a little bit less effective. And second, you should consider the kind of boundaries that were there in this ground. It was almost a square ground, so which meant that they were really able to capitalize anything that went, a little bit chest high. They were just nudging the ball and was flying over the slips, or the angle shots, hitting down the ground on both the sides. Was a pretty decent four, and all you had to do was get back to ball, be it straight or behind, and you had a four or a six. And if you notice, most of the runs that the Pakistani scored were actually like that. But before we start crediting the ground or saying it's a day-night contest, let's give credit where it's due, because the ground was common for both the guys, for both Pakistan and for New Zealand. Pakistan were, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Pakistan were the smarter among both the teams. Right. So before getting into any more of this, let's get into it and let's analyze what went down. So unlike the previous two games, I guess this time Pakistan was batting first. They weren't New Zealand was batting first. Pakistan was actually going to chase the thing, which was different. They knew what they had to get, and they had a chase on their hands. But talking about New Zealand's batting, I guess it all started off. You saw the very first ball that Shahid Afridi bowled, and you could knew that things were back on track. He bowled a full in-swinging ball that kind of swung into the pads. Sure, he's guilty of maybe straying onto the pads a couple of times, but he was going for the swing. He was searching for the swing, and it was certainly an offer. I don't think the pace was right up there. I think Shaheen Shah Afridi at his best bowls maybe 7 or 8 clicks faster than what he is right now, but he was certainly trying. And later on in his spell, there were many slower balls, different lengths, different lines. So you could really see that they really spent time improving what they were dishing out to the New Zealanders. So let's start off with the first wicket that fell, which was the dangerous Finn Allen from the last match. So Finn Allen, he gets a full ball and he, flicks it. It's a fantastic catch. So it doesn't flick it. He's a left-hander, so he kind of glances it at gully. It was almost like a Glenn Phillips kind of catch. But it wasn't Glenn Phillips. Guess who it was? It was Harris Roth. And when he held on to the ball, my jaw just dropped. I was like, what is going on here? And I think he was also in disbelief, because the moment he held on to it, kind of threw it up in the air and started running off. So anyway, it was a wacky start, a crazy start to the New Zealand innings, and Pakistan were just, over the moon with that start. Then what followed was something a little bit familiar, where you had Tim Seifert kind of taking them to the cleaners, but they did something different over here. It might not have worked off, because I felt that the bowler Abrar was a bit too full and he went for too many runs. If he was too full up front, maybe later on he was too short, right? And he corrected it, but I'll talk about that later. So he starts bowling to Tim Seifert, and we thought Tim Seifert maybe had he definitely had a liking to the pace, and that was visible the last two outings. But this time they thought maybe we can put a spinner in. If you remember and you see my blog from before, I said, why aren't you opening with a spinner? And that's exactly what they did. So I'm really glad that happened. But anyway, so he gets off to a decent kind of a start, punishes the spinner a bit, but then guess what happens? The pace bowler comes back, and what does he do? He bowls a beautiful off-pace delivery. So he's pace, and then suddenly off-pace delivery. This is Harris Roff I'm talking about. So he bowls an off-pace delivery, and he just kind of hits it in the air. It just goes flying high up into the night sky. Because remember, whenever a batsman hits something high up and not distance, it's mainly because he's into the shot a bit too early. So he's met the ball late because the ball is coming slower than anticipated, and the ball often goes up in the air. And a nice catch high up in the air. We remember a similar catch like that being put down before, but Salman Agha, the captain, made sure nothing of that sort happens. Beautiful catch to go, and the dangerous Tim Siffert is gone, and the score is 43. So you have both the New Zealand openers in the shed within the power play. Definite checkpoint. Then what happened was Mark Chapman happened. Now Mark Chapman, again, it seems like everybody who was performing in this and the way they were performing were basically doing it to prove me wrong from my last video. I'm glad that happened. But Mark Chapman, whom I dismissed last video saying he's like Glenn Phillips but only in the field, not with the bat, well, guess what? He made it count today. So beautiful 94 runs, stroke filled, clean shots. I did not know that Mark Chapman was playing so well. And this would have been, he got out on 94, it would have been his second T20 international, which is quite something. Daryl Mitchell comes in, does Daryl Mitchell things, settles down, takes on the pressure. There's nice, singles, doubles an offer, rotation of strike, and before you knew it, he was on his way. There was a beautiful straight 6 that he hit off the spinners, which is exactly what I thought Daryl Mitchell's role was. The moment he comes in, the spinners came on, and that's how he did, and that's why I credit Shadab Khan, my favorite player among the Pakistani team. He bowls it, but wantedly he kind of bowls it wide, right? So he drags Daryl Mitchell away from his arc into the offside. So he had to drag the ball, and since it's spinning away from him, kind of top edges it and goes high up in the air. And again, a nice catch held on by Harris Roff. Not many catches were dropped. So while I'm saying the fielding was good, there was a sensational catch to start off with. 2 good sky-high catches they were held on. The ground fielding was not all that great. There were a couple of times, maybe it was the dew, I'm not sure. I don't think it was much dew, but they were outrunning the ball, especially on the boundary line, and a couple of horrible misfields going for 4. Very schoolboy stuff. So Pakistan was a mixture of fantastic and very mediocre, both put together. I mean, typical Pakistan cricket, but somehow they were just jiving tonight with energy that was not there before, I guess. Jimmy Neesham comes in. Very good puller, very good bowler, batsman against spin bowling, but nonetheless they found the way to get him out over there. So clean LBW over there. He was actually not in the best of nicks for some strange reason. I guess that they got off to a very good start, and I thought they were going to run away with it. I think they were about 140 or something in the 13th over. So you thought that the score was going to be well in excess of 220, 230. But credit to Pakistan bowlers, they really pulled the New Zealanders back, taking regular wickets. At every single time you felt the New Zealanders were getting away, a wicket was falling. And some good bowling. It wasn't falling because of bad batting or that they were going for shots. I'll say it was good bowling. They read the pitch very well. They realized that when you go all pace on it, it's easy to hit through the line. But when you stop, when you bowl a slower ball, when you bowl a short of a length ball, mix it up with a full ball and a short of a length ball, that's when you're getting the wickets, and that's exactly what happened. So Jimmy Neesham getting LBW was basically a danger man gone. Then in walked Mitchell Hay, and this is where you have to say that this was, I think, the second time that Abrar had come back, and Abrar Ahmed, the spinner, and if his earlier burst was too full, or where the batsman as Tim Seifert was really punishing him, this time I felt it was too short. So he kept bowling short and short and short, and he was getting pulled and square cut and hit behind his head. And then I don't know what comes upon him. I'm seeing it. I'm like, ball full, and suddenly he just balls it full. And what happens? Clean bowled. It was a fantastic ball. I guess Well, I don't want to say that was his plan to bowl short and then bowl full, but definitely bowling full had an impact. You could see the spinners bowling full had an impact both in the Pakistani bowling as well as the New Zealand bowling, but definitely Abrar Ahmed did a good one by bowling full. Then in came in the dangerous Kylie Jamieson. Like I said, Kyle Jamieson is really tall, got long livers and can hit a long ball. But first ball, clean bowled. Again, full, not full enough to hit it down the ground and not full enough to defend it or anything of that sort. So it kind of drags the batsman forward, spins away, clean bowled. So two beautiful bowled deliveries, and there wasn't that famous kind of celebration that Abrar Ahmed did, but nonetheless, the celebration he did against India. But nonetheless, it was a pretty good, a display of bowling, and you could see that he was disappointed. So though he picked up both the wickets, he really wasn't celebrating much because you could see he was disappointed with the way he was punished, because I felt that he did not bowl to his potential, right? I feel he's a very good bowler with good variations, but this whole match he was kind of, I don't know, maybe he was trying to bowl it too short and too fast, I'm not sure. But the moment he went back to his stock delivery of bowling it up, looping the ball, that's when you could see the wickets were there to be had. On the other hand, on the other place, you had Chapman, who was going at it, got to his 15 no time, was 94, I think, of like 40 something balls, 44 balls. Ultimately, that's when he got out. And even that, how did he get out? You guessed it. Slow ball. It's not slow ball, but off-pace ball. And this time it was Shaheen Shah Afridi who did the off-pace bowling. Again, so fast one followed up with a nice slow one. Went for the shot, ended up skying it high in the air. Not so high, but high in the air. I think it was supposed to go straight, went square instead. And that's how he got out too. So you could see that the Pakistanis definitely had a plan for this pitch. They had a plan for the batting. There was some slower balls. There was the Yorkers up front. Fuller length balls to exploit the swing. They did open with a spinner, and their catching was good. Ground fielding, okay, but you could see there was a different kind of a Pakistani setup. Then what followed was, of course, a couple of blows here and there, and finally the winnings got out. So where you thought that the New Zealanders could get to something like 220, 230, they fell short, and ultimately I think the difference was about 20, 30 runs. But who knows, in the kind of mood that the Pakistani batsmen were in, maybe that also would not have been enough. And the key point over here I want to note before I move into the New Zealand batting is right after the Pakistani bowling, there was a very interesting little clip of all the Pakistani fielders huddled up and their captain Salman Agha giving them a pep talk. Now, usually this kind of stuff is done in the middle of the innings or before the innings when they are bowling, but why would they do it at the end of the innings? It was basically to say, come on guys, this is our chance. The ground is not too big. The pitch is very good. We've got them back. We've pegged them back from 230 to about 200 change, and this is our chance to win. Let's pull this series back. This is one. Let's do this, boys. Dil Dil Pakistan. And that's exactly what I guess they did. So when they came out, it was, I was still thinking that both their openers, who had torrid starts to their series so far, are going to again play one of those crazy shots and they're going to get out. I guess they were playing crazy shots, but this time the crazy shots were sticking. And let me say, it wasn't as crazy as just throwing bat to ball. I think the big difference over here, again, I don't want to discredit them, but I do want to say that there were two things working really in their favor. Number one, the ball wasn't swinging. It wasn't swinging half as much as it was swinging during the day games that we had earlier in the series. And number two, even in the second game, even though the swing wasn't as much, there was a lot of wind. So you could see that even though there was no Kylie Jamieson, there was a lot of wind and it was definitely assisting the bowlers. And number two, I guess it's point number three, they had a score on board. So they knew they had to go. Although in the previous matches, you wouldn't really fault the Pakistani openers with not being proactive. They were a bit too proactive, if you ask me. And I said, what is the goal? Is the goal getting 105 overs? Looks like that was the goal, because they ended up getting 70 odd runs in the first 5 overs, which is crazy. And I think I heard some weird stat that it was the best opening partnership they had in more than 50 games. So that's quite a lot. So before you knew it, the Pakistani openers were off and flying. Like they took off. Like imagine a racehorse taking off from the gate, right from the first over, right from the get-go. You could see those cheeky little shots. I guess they both are kind of shortish. They're not really very tall, and so when the New Zealand bowlers were bowling, the ball was kind of sitting up right there for them to be hit, and they realized that if they have to hit it down the ground, maybe they need a lot more power and a lot more height. And so what they were doing was very, very cleverly hitting almost everything behind square. So there were all these late cuts that were up aerial and this side, and there were fielders placed in third man and fine leg, fine enough, but they were still able to avoid them. I don't want to say luck was on their side. They created their own luck. Let me put it that way. Some shots were fantastic. They really took the attack to the bowlers. They put them under a lot of pressure, and you could see that under pressure, even a well-oiled machine like the New Zealand bowling was falling apart. What do I mean by falling apart? If in the last match you saw line and length bowling, channel bowling, swinging ball, this time you did not get to see that. Did you not get to see that because of the shots that were being played, or did you not get to see that because there wasn't enough assistance? I'm not sure. You be the judge of that. But definitely pace on was not helping. I don't think the New Zealand bowlers were as intelligent as the Pakistan bowlers this time. They weren't using pace-off deliveries as much. Everything was almost in the same hitting arc, and everything was short. It wasn't enough full-length balls. The batsmen were either pulling or hitting you behind square, hitting you behind third man, behind the wicket keeper, or square cutting. They were very sure shots that were going straight down the ground, and that is where I thought they missed a trick. Was it because the straight boundary was very short? I think that definitely had something to do over here. The straight boundary, because the fact it was like a square, was definitely very short. That's why the bowlers were very hesitant to pitch the ball up, especially if it wasn't swinging. I think that was a very important factor here. Before the power play got out, one of the openers, Mohammad Harris, finally got out. Ball flies up the edge, goes to the wicket keeper. Takes forever to come down. Wicket keepers don't really miss those kind of catches. That was that. Then you thought maybe there'll be some panic in the ranks, but nope. Pakistan skipper and looks like a damn good batsman. Every time he's coming out to bat, I feel there's something better about him, something so matured about him, and the stroke play is so clean and so class. Salman Agha played a beautiful hand over here. Not only was he giving strike to to Hassan Nawaz, who was in the form of his life and playing the innings of his life, but he himself was scoring at a fair clip. He ended up getting 50 runs, I think, of 30 balls, which is actually very good. But at the rate at which Hassan Nawaz was going, it was kind of slow among the two. So he was giving the strike to the player who was doing the stroke makers. And when Hassan Nawaz got to his century, you could see how happy the whole team was for him. You could see how happy that the captain was for him. Hugs, lifts him up, is like, a true sign. And I'm sure it was even more important for the captain, because the captain put his faith in that boy. He said, no, I know you failed 2 times. I know everybody is going crazy on social media, criticizing me and criticizing you, but this is your chance. You're going to do it. And that's what he did. So I felt actually very happy for Hassan Nawaz, not because he got a century or anything, but because he kind of stuck to his guns. Yes, he was a little bit lucky. I think he got put down quite a sitter-ish Saudi when he was 60 odd. But sometimes you need luck your way. There was quite a few shots that took the edge and flew away. But when it's your day, and you got to make it count. And that's what he did. So congratulations to Hassan Nawaz. I'm glad that he was able to get some runs. At least now the naysayers, me included, will keep quiet for some time. But I feel that you need to be a little bit more compact as an opener. So today, yes, sure, that the runs were there to be seen and the shots were there to be seen. But I want to see a little bit more classical opening shots, like the cover drive, the back foot square punch, the straight drive, the flick, the hook, the pull. I think today was a lot of cheeky shots and a little bit lesser of these. But he's so young, I'm sure he'll improve over time. So let's wait and watch. Ultimately, 200 was your total, 200 change, run rate of more than 10. You'd think that it'd go to at least 18th or 19th over. Nope, match was done and dusted by the 13th or the 14th over, and by the 16th over, they scored the winning run. So was New Zealand 20-30 run shot? I don't think so. I think New Zealand was actually some smart shot during the bowling. I don't think it was necessarily bad fielding. Okay, you did have one drop catch, but I think the bowling could have improved a lot more. They could have gone with more slower balls. They could have placed their field a little bit better. They could have seen that the batsmen were mainly scoring behind the wicket, and if you're not going to ball straight, you can at least put more fielders behind the wicket, and that wasn't the case so much. So even with the spinners, Doug Bracewell I thought was kind of disappointing, especially with the field he was setting. You could see that they were bowling a little bit short. Again, the spinners also weren't bowling full because they were scared of getting hit down the ground. So because they were bowling short, they had both their square leg and gully up, and the batsman was just able to pierce that gap. So the square dimensions of the ground didn't really help. I thought it was very lopsided cricket, heavily favouring the batting team compared to the bowling team. But then again, you can say New Zealand also did the batting. So that's why I said the team that bowled smarter won today. And I'm very happy for Hassan Nawaz after copying a lot of ridicule on social media and such. I think he's done well for himself. So the Pakistan has pulled one back and kept their pride. So let's wait and watch what happens next. Thank you.